get this on camera. What was Jesus' race?
Jesus was a white man.
You lying. Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem. So why did wait? So why in the book? Shut up.
Jewish person.
Shut up. So why in the book of Revelation? What is Jesus' appearance in the book of Revelation? What is it?
Jesus is a white man.
What is Jesus' appearance in the book of Revelation?
It said he had eyes. When I grew out my beard, I got one.
He had eyes of flame of fire. His hair was white as wool, and he had feet the color of fine brass.
Why is Jesus white? Right? Why is Jesus white? Because everywhere in America, in the West, generally Jesus is white, right? As though he's European or something, right? Why? You know, you've seen the pictures. He should be black, right? So it was getting very uncomfortable because this whole majlis, this whole forum was to bring about reconciliation, not to create more problems. And now this was a big problem.
The real Jesus didn't look like that. That's their imagination of Jesus. That's the symbol of white supremacy in the role of divinity. Did you hear what I said?
If white people changed Jesus from being black to white, is it because they would never serve a king?
Are you asking me a question? I can't answer.
No, that's the biggest question we got to ask ourselves. Like, why did white people, if God loves everybody and they giving us this Bible, telling us this is the truth of God, but the way that they give it to us, they make they make Jesus white instead of black like he is. Why did they do that?
Do you think Jesus was a white man?
No, I don't think he was white.
Because they always depict him that way.
Yeah, but that's like just an Americanized version of, you know, he was definitely of like a darker skin complexion for sure. You know, dude, imagine if I'm like, yeah, he was totally white. Like he was like white, like, like blue eyes, you know,
just like me.
Yeah, he looked exactly like me, but with like long brown hair. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Recently, one of my supposed sisters in Christ left a comment on one of my videos saying that she didn't know how I could believe that God could make Jesus born of a virgin and not believe that God could make him white. To be clear, I absolutely believe that God could make him white. God could have made him purple, but he didn't. And I can tell you how I know that. Because if you do believe what the Bible says, and I do, the Bible doesn't tell us a lot about what Jesus looked like. In fact, we can infer more about what he looked like probably by what the Bible doesn't say. The book of Isaiah, which includes the prophecy of Jesus' coming, said that he would not be attractive or majestic or have anything special about him that would draw people to him based on his physical appearance. But in all four of the Gospels, there's no physical description of what Jesus actually looked like. Because he was Jewish, it's believed that he looked like other Jewish people at the time, with dark hair and dark eyes. And yes, brown skin. Throughout the Bible, physical characteristics of different characters are described. Goliath was a giant. Esau was red and hairy. Many different people in the Bible were likely of African descent and were black. But that isn't discussed in the Bible because it's not what's important. The Bible doesn't classify people by race, but it does classify them by ethnicity, nationality, and lineage. Beauty is discussed in the Bible, and there are many different people throughout the Bible that are described as beautiful. Jesus was not one of those. He wasn't described as ugly either. And most Bible scholars would say that he was likely just plain. And so the reason that I know that Jesus wasn't white, when a person's physical characteristics are different or unique or make them stand out in some way, the Bible does discuss those physical characteristics. None of that's discussed with Jesus. If Jesus were white, the Bible would tell us that. There would be some evidence of that somewhere other than in the minds of Christian nationalists in America. Jesus was brown, and he was also an immigrant and poor. If you believe the Bible, you have to believe that Jesus wasn't white.
Welcome back, family. This is your boy, Craig Extra. I really want us to talk about what Jesus really meant to the people. And also, let's just put this in a perspective, because the white has always wanted to deceive the black people. And this is one of the most concerning things, because if you look at the ancient documents and the way back scrolls from way back, you can see Jesus had different forms, which means that there's no consistency on how Jesus used to be and how he looked. So I can say he was black, I can say he was Arabic, I can say he was brown, I can say he was white, but the entire story is up to you because it's just faith, and Jesus was here as a human. This division that people want to divide Jesus' authority is because there are some people in other races which we call the white folks. The white folks decided that if the black knew that this powerful person, this black powerful person was a black person and his descendant was black, then we will not be able to colonize them, because how can you tell someone that this guy was so powerful and came to this world looking this way and they accept that they are lesser being? You don't colonize them. So I feel like ever since even us, this generation, I'm a millennial. We were born to endure the whites system, because if you want to go to the US, you have to have a visa. If you want to be a Christian, you have to accept that first Jesus was white. So there are very many things the white decided to put them, and churches also were designed as rehabilitation centers for people who were very aggressive. And also it gave people a mindset of good and bad. So let's just watch these people talk about whether Jesus is black or white, which you know what the outcome might be, because it's just the same way we debate if Jesus was a prophet or Jesus was the Son of God. So let's just check this out.
Basically, this commenter is implying that white Jesus is Da Vinci's headcanon, and implying that, white Jesus is something that Leonardo da Vinci himself came up with, which is just kind of false. And this is false because, one, we see depictions of white Jesus way before, Leonardo started making art, and we see depictions of white Jesus way before Leonardo was even born. I'll click this comment to watch my original video, but in that video that this comment is left under, I talk about Saint Francis. Franciscan ideology comes directly from Saint Francis getting like a premonition from the Saint Damiano crucifix, which he said that he heard the voice of Jesus come out of and say like rebuild the church or whatever. And this depiction is of Jesus as a white man, and this was made in the 12th century by an unknown artist. Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper was made in the 13th century or the 1400s. And it's like late 1400s, early 1500s. I think it's like 1495. Let me go check. I was correct. 1495. This piece was made in 1495. The Saint Damiano crucifix is a piece from the 12th century, 1100. So for your theory about white Jesus being something that Leonardo da Vinci made up, we would have to see nobody else depicting Jesus as a white man before da Vinci depicted Jesus as a white man. There are countless examples of artists that came way before da Vinci depicting Jesus as a white man. This piece was painted in 1295. Da Vinci was born in 1452. Just made an entire video. You commented under the video where I explain why Jesus was white and where it came from. Fair, I did fail to mention that a lot of these pieces look similar to each other because back in the day, artists used to work in, workshop. And so there would be a master of the workshop, and that's why it's called masterpieces. And all the apprentices in the workshop, they would usually do, copies or other renditions of the masterpieces that the master of the workshop was doing. And a lot of the pieces look similar. A lot of the subjects in the pieces look similar. So that's why we see a lot of consistency whenever they're representing, historical figures like Jesus. That's why Jesus always had the long hair. That's why Mary always had like the red and blue robes, because they were replicating other pieces that they saw. And since they wanted to keep consistency, they just, copied the subject. So Mary's wearing a red and blue robe. So I have to make sure that she's wearing a red and blue robe so that they know it's Mary. It's iconography. I can make another video on iconography and explain it better. But no, white Jesus is not from Leonardo da Vinci.
Hey, I just want to remind people that when people get very, very angry when a made-up character's skin color or race is changed, just remind these people, because they tend to kind of overlap with like the Christian community, that Jesus was brown, but they like to really worship a white dude. So like,
When people in positions of power explain Jesus with total certainty, they're often not talking about the Jesus of the Gospels. They're talking about what I like to call white Jesus, an image built to look like authority. And before we argue about what Jesus believed, there's a more important question that we usually skip. Who gets to speak for Jesus? And even before that, who gets represented, God or Jesus? Because God and Jesus are not the same thing. And historically, God is rarely depicted in Christian art. Aside from rare moments like Michelangelo's creation of Adam, God is invisible, abstract, hard to contain. The focus of Christian art isn't God, it's Jesus, and that isn't accidental. A couple of summers ago, I visited the catacombs outside Rome and the necropolis beneath St. Peter's. What stood out to me wasn't what Jesus looked like there, it was how inconsistent the images of him were. Sometimes he's young and beardless and a shepherd, sometimes he's barely depicted at all. Often, Jesus isn't shown as a person, but as a symbol, the fish, the Cairo. Not crosses, not portraits. They were burial places, hidden spaces used during persecution. This imagery wasn't about projecting authority, it was about survival. And that matters. Early Christianity didn't rely on faces, it relied on symbols. Faces come later. Faces come when Christianity stops hiding and starts governing. As Christianity aligns with empire, especially under Byzantine influence, Jesus is depicted differently. He becomes calm, regal, authoritative. Not because that's how Jesus lived, I mean, he was a carpenter and probably wore sandals everywhere, but because that's how power looks. Empires can't rule with an invisible God. They rule with bodies and stories. Jesus has both. As Christianity spreads through Europe, that imperial image gets repeated, refined, and normalized. Over centuries, it becomes familiar and unquestioned. That's how we end up with what many people call white Jesus, not as history, but as legitimacy. And this is where I really struggle, because when I read about the Jesus of the New Testament, when I read what he said, the one who challenges religious authority, sides with the poor, and warns about wealth and power, I don't recognize him in the version used to bless dominance and control. It brings to mind Luke 6:46, where Jesus asks, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say?" This isn't about belief, it's about authority. Because invoking Jesus isn't the same thing as following him. And bowing to an image of Jesus that looks like power may have very little to do with the Jesus of the Gospels. So if Jesus became the face of authority, when did he stop challenging power and start endorsing it? That's where the story goes next.
I expected this comment and the others like it. Mormons are a peculiar and a predictable people. Mormons absolutely collectively imagine a white Jesus. Show up to any gospel doctrine class in the Mormon corridor. Raise your hand and say, "I object to that painting of Jesus on the wall behind you. He was a Middle Eastern Jew and he most certainly would have had much darker skin, hair, and eyes than is depicted here." Then just sit back, relax, and watch the chaos unfold. I'm not covering any new ground here. Christians have been whitewashing Jesus forever. But Mormons specifically associate light skin with righteousness. It was literally in their scripture. So I would argue that white Jesus is even more important to them than most Christian religions. Every picture I'm going to show you is from the LDS.org Gospel Art Library, which is a set of images that are allowed to be used in Mormon meetings as visual aids and also that are allowed to be hung on the walls of Mormon churches. I cropped out my low battery. You're welcome. All right, number one, we got Binu. Just kidding, but yeah, I want to establish right out of the gate that Mormons are serious about white Jesus. This is Jesus, this is God, or vice versa. More of a sandy blonde Jesus here. This is the one that I had hung up in my room all growing up. I just love the colors in it. Speaking of color, got some blonde on the top, brunette in the flop going on. Some more sandy blonde Jesuses here. Can't really see the eyes in these. Oh, bingo. A blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus. Okay, like this one isn't in the actual Gospel Art Library, but it is one of the approved images of Jesus that you can hang in a Mormon church. And check out those baby blues. This is the one whose eyes follow you wherever you are in the foyer, or at least my sister told me that circa 1995, and I don't know what color they are, but definitely not brown. This hair brings us to my section on redheaded Jesuses, and is it any wonder that the guy who plays Jesus in all of the church things is a blue-eyed redhead? Really cool guy too, by the way. In conclusion, did I stutter? But you're right. If I had said white, blue-eyed ginger Jesus, that would have definitely covered more bases, and I deeply regret the missed opportunity to use alliteration.
So there was a black man and a white man that lived next to each other. They always argued on whether Jesus was black or whether Jesus was white. And the black man said Jesus was black. And the white man said, no, Jesus was white. And so incidentally and coincidentally, they died on the exact same day. So they were racing each other to the pearly gates. When they got to the pearly gates, they said to St. Peter, the black man said, Peter, tell this man that Jesus is black. And the white man said, no, Peter, you tell him that Jesus is white. And about that time, Jesus walked up and he said, ¿Cómo está capo? It's Tagalog. It means, how are you?
So you've heard. There are some people who have their own theories, and there are some people who think that Jesus is white, and there's some people who feel like Jesus is black. But does it really matter how Jesus looks like? Is it really necessary to know the color of Jesus? Is this the intentions Jesus had when he came as a black man or as a white one? Because it's always about the gospel and preaching good vibes. Because if you look at how the white treat this situation, they treat it like it's some kind of abomination for Jesus to be white because he can't be black. Black is the ugliest color any human race can have. And this is somehow very weird when you think about it. It's like they're trying their best to put blacks in a certain category, and the nature always comes and proves them wrong. If you haven't been watching my melanin series that I've been doing about how their skins peel off and the blacks can thrive, you can see the video. I'll put it in the end screen when this video ends. Click it, watch it. You'll see just the same concept. They are trying to do things that don't give blacks credit. I mean, blacks have never been equal. Even if you go to the United States, it's all about you're black, you ain't getting paid as much as a white person is. I think sometimes the equal pay matters, and also everything. We have never been equal. You feel me? And even if in the World Cup, you can see how African teams are treated. They're either corrupt. There's corruption there. You see, like you'll find like Egyptian countries, the Egyptian countries, what happened, and the Cape Verde thing, and also there were many things that Africans went through. But the white will always want to diminish the integrity of a black person, which brings us to the topic. Why does it matter? Why does it matter for Jesus to be black or white? If Jesus was black, we'll still worship him because he was a very powerful being, according to the scriptures and how things were written and how the Bible is written. The same Bible that they gave us when they came to colonize most of the African countries. This means that the white has always diminished the black race. There are photos, you can go and check them in the archives, go and check them on Wikipedia. We have photos of even white people being carried around in some sort of palace type of chariot. I mean, what do you call them? They were carried. They were carried all the way to their destinations because vehicles were not yet invented when they came. So they have been doing soft life type of life. I don't think Jesus is white because Jesus was poor. As you've heard, Jesus was poor. Jesus was a carpenter. The only thing that Jesus wanted is to unite people and also make them believe that the word of God is the last word that you should consume. And I feel like I think whites will be punished if Jesus is black and they are the ones who coerced the Bible. I think if we are talking the truth, punishment doesn't escape even. It just comes and taunts your children. You feel me? The mistakes of their grandparents and the mistakes of their great great grandparents has made us think, is this karma? You feel me? Like the light, the UV ray and all that. You may tell us it's science, but we know that if it's science, then we're not even capable of going to another planet. if we're really good in science. Every time something happens, a holy thing happen, or something that cannot be explained, you'll find like scientists trying to like give you an explanation, and which is so weird. And those scientists are always white. I've never seen an African scientist trying to decipher like, no, they're always white, because there are some white people who don't believe in Jesus, but yet they know Jesus was white. So it's really, really not what I expect from them. But the reality is that people are trying their best. People are trying their best to think of the face of a black Jesus, because we have seen this face of Jesus which is white, and I know very well that this guy was Caesar Borgia. Caesar Borgia was he's the one who looks like that. And if you go to check this out, I dare you go check Caesar Borgia and see how he looked. And most of the people know that Caesar Borgia is the image that people say it was Jesus. And we all know that Jesus did look like that. Jesus looks like French. Well, they designed Jesus to look French. And we know Jesus was a migrant. We know that he almost died when they wanted to kill him. Like King Herod wanted to kill him, and they had to flee to Egypt and all that. So during that process, you might find that Jesus was either black or either brown descendant, and this is one of the things they don't want us to know. If once you know it, then the white identity will be lesser. I know the whites have always told us that we are stupid, we cannot invent our own things. At the given time before they colonized us, I think Africans would have evolved in their own way. In fact, we would have been much stronger than them, because we were in a very sunny place. The climate didn't really force us to evade our to flee our natural grounds. We stayed put because we had the sun, we had food, we had water, we had animals, everything. And then the white came and colonized us. So it's a bit of a theory what would have happened. And but the Jesus part, personally, I know Jesus is black or brown descendant. And I always just feel like because I don't have the actual image, why not just imagine? So my Jesus in my head is black. I'm being honest. My head is filled with black Jesus. I know you've seen a very comedic series called Black Jesus, and it really depicts on how Jesus would have been when he was black. But we forget there's two types of black people. There are those African blacks and American blacks, and also the European blacks, and there are other white descendant countries who have adopted these blacks. So I feel like the series Black Jesus was just comedic, but it was also blasphemy. But you tell me in the comment section, what do you think? Do you believe in Black Jesus or do you believe in White Jesus? This is a topic that can never end. The same as saying Jesus is a prophet and son of God, which it's a theory that has never happened. Or it's just like a Messi and Ronaldo debate. So tell me in the comment section what you think. I'm very happy for those people who are sending me coffee. And if you'd like to send me coffee, and I'm here, you can send it here. There is a QR code here. You can scan it, and you will be able to send me coffee. Anyway, this is your boy Craig Extra, and see you in the next one. And till then, peace out.